Food records slash diaries are often 11 to 41% underreported.
It's called a BLT, bites, licks, and tastes. And these are the things that can easily take you out of that deficit without realizing.
We have some really relevant, awesome questions planned for you today. And we're going to start it off with our primary question, which is, why am I not losing weight in a calorie deficit? And I've heard this over and over. I've heard this at barbecues, birthday parties. So many people will say, oh, this person's so fit, they're so healthy, they eat the best foods, they're in a deficit, they do so much exercise, and they just live a healthy lifestyle, but they can't lose weight. Like it's hormonal, or there's something going on, or there's something behind the scenes. What's your thoughts on this, or why is that? And the truth is, like, it's a matter of thermodynamics. If you burn enough calories, more than you're consuming, your body can't create a surplus of energy to cause you to put on fat or gain weight. This number will look different for everyone. And I think people really like clean, obvious numbers, because you'll look at your watch or your Fitbit and it'll say, okay, you burned 10,000 calories today because you're a hyper athlete, right? And you'll be like, that's so crazy. I burned 10,000 calories playing pickleball and going to the gym and going on a few walks, right? And it'll shoot that really high. You'll track your calories. You'll often underreport it. I actually had a stat in my thoughts that I'll include now. And that's that food records slash diaries are often 11 to 41% underreported. And it gets even worse, and that number gets even higher 24 hours after the fact. So a lot of people say, yeah, I track my food. They'll eat, they'll go a couple days, they'll backtrack a couple days, they'll try to guess what they had, they'll smudge the numbers, make them fit how they want. It's very easy for us, me and Kyle were just talking about this, to eat something, downplay how much of it we had, log a half portion, log a few tablespoons. It's natural human tendency. So we'll tend to overestimate how much we're burning, and we'll underestimate how much we're actually eating. So we'll often think like, I'm only eating 2,000 calories and I'm burning 10,000 calories. There's a gap of 8,000 and I haven't lost weight. Why is that? The reality is you just aren't losing weight. Something's wrong with that equation. Either you're not burning as much as you thought, you're consuming more than you thought. And yes, everyone is different. I have some clients who are 110-pound females who eat 3,000 calories. I have some clients that are 200-pound males that are incredibly sedentary, that don't move much, that have a lot of weight to lose, that are only eating like 2,200 calories. Like, it's very case specific to the individual, your lifestyle. But ultimately, if you are being honest and accurate, and whatever that threshold is, you will find that number and you will lose weight. And of course, there are some exceptions with hormones and whatnot, but as a rule of thumb, this will more so indicate the number. You might have to work harder to be in that deficit. Your body might prevent some of that fact. But all in all, there is a certain threshold, because once again, your body can't just manifest fat, calories, or energy if there's not enough coming in, if your body's burning more than it. So it's finding that threshold. And the honest reality is, if you're not losing weight in a caloric deficit, it's because you're not actually in a deficit, or you're in a deficit during the week and you're blowing that out over the weekend. And you're basically on this path of going downhill with your calories, shooting them back up to equilibrium, gaining some weight, being in a surplus, and then you're kind of leveling out your deficit and your surplus. So it's always one or the other. And like, this is the cold hard truth. It's never easy to hear, but a great thing you can do is really double down on finding the right amount of calories and being as hyper accurate as you can with your logging, and continuing to do that and adjusting that number until you see that scale go down. So I know Kyle's been having this really top of mind. He's been adding a lot of his clients on MyFitnessPal and helping a lot of them really get in the meat and potatoes of what they're eating, literally and figuratively. So what tips do you have for someone on top of this to log even more accurately?
Yeah, so this is where it gets so difficult. Like, I'm going to start with the person who is logging, right? Because something I've got to say is there's two different types of people. There's the person who says, hey, Kyle, hey, Josh, I am not losing weight and I am eating healthy and I'm doing everything and I'm only eating chicken every day, right? Like, I've actually heard this multiple times in conversation from random people at barbecues. And the first thing I'll say about this person before I get into the logger and the one who's struggling with that is that the average person who thinks they're doing everything great until they see what's going on, it's usually not the case. Like, I would say to someone, hey, okay, so what do you eat? We'd piece it together and then they end up actually being in a overall surplus, but we don't know that because they haven't logged and they're just like guessing everything. You know, a lot of the things that they don't think about, they're actually just taking themselves out of that, what they thought was a deficit. And so that's where I wanted to start with that one person, right? And I've had this conversation so often, but I wanted to spend a little bit more time on the person who's like, you know what? I am using MyFitnessPal. I am using a tracker. I am I'm doing everything like my calories are at 1600 and I know I should be losing weight. As Josh said, most people are just way too like I guess you could say generous with their calories. And so that's where a few things I want to talk about that I've been working with my clients is first of all, it's called a BLT, bites, licks, and tastes. And these are the things that can easily take you out of that deficit without realizing. And I've had conversations and I've talked, right now I'm having a coffee, right? There's, a little bit of lactose-free milk in there. That could easily be 50 plus calories, right? If you have a child and you test their food beforehand and you want to make sure like to eat up the scraps, someone brings in something to work and you have a little bite, like these things add up anywhere between 200 to 600 calories. And it depends on your situation, but this alone, most people don't think about because they just think, oh, it's just one almond. Oh, it's just one little, half of a bear paw. Like these things add up. And I see a lot of people making this mistake. The other thing is eyeballing portions. So, if you're not using a food scale or if you're not using a measuring cup, it's just a guess, right? And most people, like Josh said, they will start to give themselves like after the fact when you log, you'll always give yourself that room to say, oh, it fits. I know it fits because, I logged afterwards. Same with eyeballing. Like a lot of times, if you know that you should only have the 1 cup of rice and like that's just what fits for your day, you'll say, oh, yeah, it was 1 cup, no problem. Meanwhile, you had like 2 heavy overflowing cups, right? And you just end up giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. The other biggest thing I'd say, especially seeing some personal friends and people who are like trying to get to that next level is just the inaccurate tracking while being out, right? Because most people have busy lives. A lot of people have, random things that they get at restaurants and we really focus on flexible dieting. That's a big part of it. But you can't just really look at a sandwich and just say, turkey sandwich, right? Like you have to be very specific. And then most people end up underreporting by anywhere between like 300 and 600 calories in a specific meal, not accounting for oils and butters. And when you think about like restaurants and all these places, they're trying to get you to come back. And so a lot of people they add a lot of stuff, which ends up taking you out of that deficit. So I always try to overlog. I always try to be as accurate as possible. I've actually put together a fast food survival guide to help you out as well. And so if you wanted to grab that, it's going to be the second link down below. There's going to give you a lot of different principles to be able to navigate, to be able to figure out what choices to make, how to log things. And it's a really in-depth guide that I put together that I think you'll like. But a lot of it truthfully comes down to just you're not doing it on purpose. Like when I talk to these people, they're not just like, haha, like I'm trying to just underreport so I can sabotage myself. You're still a great person. Nobody's doing that. It's just the awareness side of things. Like you'll look at a thing of sweet potato fries and put sweet potato fries, 130 calories. You didn't put the Chipotle mayo in there and you put like, that's only accounting for a couple fries and no oils. Like you didn't account for the entire thing. So this is where a lot of people just mess up. And, even just the simple things day to day that they're just forgetting. Like, you just think, oh, breakfast, you know what? Today's a good day. The peanut butter jar is calling my name. What do? You 2 hours later, like, all right, I'm going to put it in there. You didn't put your peanut butter. There's 200 calories. And while I'm talking about peanut butter, that's another thing. Food scales, measuring cups, proper tablespoons, like weighing these things out is what will make the biggest difference. So I had to pop off because I'm so passionate about this. And this to me is why most people think they're going to make progress, but they're not actually making progress.
And a lot of it can be innocent as well. So we went out for lunch today. We had something more fun. We had some fried chicken and wedges. And obviously, we're going to build a healthy day around that. And this was a one-time kind of fun thing, which is nice. And it's going to fit within the macros. I logged it all beforehand. I mapped up the calories. I made sure it worked within my day. It's very easy for me to say, okay, check, I did a perfect job, and forget about the 2 sauces I had. Both those sauces do have calories. I got like a spicy mayo and I got like a sweet and sour sauce. So I'm looking between 100 and 200 calories. And it's very easy throughout the day to forget to put that in and be like, okay, whatever. Like I tracked everything really well. My Starbucks coffee here is some lactose-free milk. It's not much. It's probably 10, 20, 30 calories. But it is something. It's something you need to put in. Then like, let's say one of my son's, like even Monday, he gave me half of his chomp. He ate half and he's like, I don't want this. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll eat it. 50 calories, right? So on top of this analogy, those 2 sauces, the lactose-free milk, half a chomp for my son is 300 calories. It's a very measurable amount of calories that can create a change. So to summarize everything, like if you're not if a deficit isn't working for you, it's because you're not in a deficit. And we wanted to explain that behind the scenes a little bit too much. And it's not enough just to be like active and eat good food, because too much of anything can be bad for you. Like if you have too much of anything good, you can still overeat on healthy good foods. It's going to be harder. It's a net better decision. It's good fuel for your body, but you can still be in a surplus and you can still absolutely gain weight by eating too many good foods. So that's where it's good to take some self accountability. So I'm going to be hyper accurate with my logging and really pop everything in there. Like literally when I say everything, I mean everything, every sauce, every bite, every lick, every taste. Now I've seen people log like Diet Coke and stuff. If it's 0 calories, you can let that one slide. That doesn't necessarily need to go in there. Or I think sometimes they're like, they have 0.1 protein or something, right? So that perhaps you can let slide, but your veggies, your fruits, like just really be accurate. And what's nice about this is you get a very realistic view of where you're at. You understand your numbers, you understand what it takes for you to be in a deficit. It becomes very calculated and very controlled and very freeing, because instead of you just trying to eat perfectly healthy foods and starve yourself and all this stuff, like me and Kyle can be in a deficit and say, hey, I have some fried chicken today. We're going to enjoy it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be really tasty. And I'm going to fit it within my day. I'm still going to succeed. And I'm still going to be on a good path on my weight loss journey. So amazing question here. Really happy to get in the weeds and answer this, because this is one we get all too often. And you might know someone who's kind of wondering why it's not working for them. So definitely recommend them this episode, recommend this podcast. And before we get in our quotes too, it really does mean a lot when people tell other people about the podcast, because it's awesome. And it's really great just to see people succeed and see change and find the podcast and the results that come. And a lot of it can be just because you tell someone about it, especially if you have other friends that want to become fitter, healthier, and happier. And obviously, as we get more listeners, that helps us as well, which is great to make more of an impact, which is absolutely phenomenal.